The alien mother stood alone in the great hall of her people. Around her, tall figures in silver armor looked down with cold eyes. Their voices were sharp, their words like knives. They did not see her as a mother. They saw her as a weakness in their world. To care for a child was to be unfit for survival. She held the small bundle close to her chest. The child gave a soft cry, a sound that echoed in the silence of the hall. Instead of kindness, the leaders showed anger. They shouted that she had broken the ancient law, a law that said no warrior should bring life into this harsh galaxy. Her heart was heavy, but her arms were strong. She would not let go of her child. No matter the punishment, they told her she was banished. Her name would be erased. Her people would never speak of her again. She was no longer one of them. With guards at her side, they dragged her to a ship. It was old, broken, not meant for long travel. It was a prison made to look like freedom. The doors shut behind her. The engines roared. She was thrown into the dark void of space alone with her child and nothing else. The alien mother looked out at the stars. She once called them beautiful. Now they felt cold and endless. Her child slept in her arms, small and fragile. She whispered to the child, her voice shaking, "You are not weakness. You are my strength." Days passed in silence. Her ship floated without direction. She searched for any signal, any sign of hope. But only the empty universe answered. Her food was low, her water almost gone. Fear grew in her heart, not for herself but for the small life she held. The ship rattled, alarms screamed, the engine was dying. She tried to control it, but the ship was too damaged. She knew it would not last much longer. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. If she gave in to despair, her child would have nothing, so she kept fighting. Every breath was for her child. Every heartbeat was a promise. She thought of her people, how they had turned away, how their cold law had destroyed the warmth of family. She once fought beside them in battles. She once stood as one of their strongest. But all that was forgotten the moment she became a mother. In their eyes, she was no warrior now, only a burden. She wondered if they would ever know the truth, that the child she carried might one day be greater than them all. The stars outside blurred as the ship spun out of control. A planet appeared in the distance, blue and green. It was strange, alive, unlike the lifeless world she had seen. The ship shook harder, metal cracking under pressure. The mother held her child close, shielding the small body with her own. She whispered, "Hold on, little one, hold on." Fire filled the sky as the ship entered the planet's atmosphere. Heat pressed against the walls, alarm screamed louder. The child cried, but the mother's voice calmed the sound. Even as fear clawed at her, she stayed strong. She would not let her child see her break. She would not show weakness, not now, not ever. The ship hit the ground with a crash. Dust and smoke rose into the air. Metal bent and shattered. Pain shot through her body. But she did not cry out. Her only thought was of the child. She pulled the small figure from the wreckage. The child was alive, safe in her arms. Relief filled her heart, stronger than pain. For the first time since her exile, she smiled. She looked at the sky. The stars hidden by clouds. She did not know this world. She did not know if its people were kind or cruel, but she knew one thing. This was not the end, it was the beginning. Her rejection had brought her here, and maybe, just maybe, this planet would give her child the chance her own people had denied. The alien mother stood weak but unbroken. Her eyes burned with fire. Her voice was soft but filled with promise. "You will live, my child," she whispered. "No matter what comes, you will live," and in that moment, under the dark sky of an unknown world, the story of the alien mother and her child truly began. Night had fallen across the quiet forest. The air was heavy with the smell of smoke. The crash had shaken the ground only hours ago. Animals hid in silence, sensing something strange. Among the trees, a man moved carefully. His boots soft on the soil, he was a human, a traveler of the wild places, used to danger and used to being alone. His name was Daniel.
He carried a flashlight in one hand and an old rifle on his back.
He had seen the fire streak across the sky earlier that evening. At first he thought it was only a meteor, but the sound of metal tearing, the shockwave through the trees told him it was something else, something alive, something not of this world. He reached the edge of a smoking crater. The air was warm. The earth cracked open in the center. Twisted metal groaned and hissed. The remains of a ship, nothing like he had ever seen before. It was sharp, curved, almost alive in shape. Glowing faintly with alien light, Daniel's heart pounded, but his curiosity was stronger than fear. Slowly, he climbed down into the crater. The smoke burned his throat, the heat stung his skin. He shined the light into the wreck, and then he froze there. Among the broken pieces was a figure, a woman. Though not human, her skin pale silver, her eyes dark and deep, and in her arms, wrapped tightly, was something small, a child. Daniel's breath caught. He expected monsters, claws, teeth. But what he saw was a mother, trembling, weak, yet still protecting her child. The sight made him hesitate. Should he run? Should he help? He remembered stories of invasion, of dangerous beings from the stars, yet the way she held the child was no different from any human mother. It was not a weapon in her arms, it was life, fragile and crying. The alien mother looked up at him, her eyes filled with fear, not anger. She did not speak his language, but he understood the message. She was begging silently, desperately, not for herself, but for the child. Daniel lowered his rifle slowly. He took a cautious step closer. The ground crunched under his boots. The mother flinched, holding the child tighter. He raised his empty hand, showing he meant no harm. "Easy," he whispered, though he knew she could not understand. "Easy." "I'm not here to hurt you," the child whimpered, a soft sound that seemed to echo in the night. Daniel's heart tightened. He had seen many hard things in his life, storms, hunger, even war, but the sound of a child, alien or human, was the same everywhere. It was innocence, and innocence should never be punished. He searched the wreck for danger, for traps, but it was clear. The ship was broken beyond repair. The mother was injured. A cut across her arm, burns along her side, yet she stood strong, refusing to let go of the child. Daniel took off his jacket and laid it gently on the ground. He pointed to it, then to her. She hesitated, eyes narrowing, but the weight of exhaustion forced her to act. She lowered herself onto the jacket. Clutching the child close for a long moment, neither spoke, only the sound of fire crackling around them. Daniel felt the strangeness of the moment. A human and an alien face to face, no war, no weapons raised, only fear, only survival. At last, Daniel reached into his pack and pulled out a flask of water. He opened it slowly, then placed it on the ground between them. The mother looked at him, unsure. Then, with shaking hands, she reached out. She touched the flask, sniffed it, and finally drank. Her eyes softened, not with trust, not yet. But with relief, the child stirred, opening bright eyes. Not fully human, not fully alien. Daniel felt his breath catch again. That child was different. A bridge between worlds, perhaps, or a secret worth killing for. The night grew colder. Daniel knew he could not leave them here. He could already imagine what would happen if others found the crash. Government agents, soldiers, scientists. They would not see a mother and child, they would see experiments. Weapons, property, he clenched his fists. The thought filling him with anger. The mother seemed to sense his decision. She leaned forward, whispering something in a strange musical tongue. He did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. It was hope, it was trust, small but real. She was asking him for help. Daniel nodded once. He lifted his rifle, not to threaten her, but to protect her. He glanced at the trees above. He knew they would not be safe for long. Someone must have seen the fire, heard the crash. Time was short. He reached out a hand. The mother looked at it, her eyes wide. For a moment she did not move. Then slowly, carefully, she placed her hand in his. Her grip was weak but filled with determination. She rose with the child in her arms. Together they stepped away from the wreck. Together they walked into the shadows of the forest. The smoke of the crash faded behind them. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. He did not know who she was. He did not know why she had come, but he knew one thing. Her rejection had brought her here, and now her survival was tied to his heart. The forest was quiet, but the silence carried weight. Daniel led the alien mother through the dark trees. Guiding her with the beam of his small flashlight, the child stirred in her arms, letting out a soft cry. The sound of hunger and fear mixed together. Daniel stopped near an abandoned cabin he sometimes used for hunting trips. It was old, the wood broken in places, but it was shelter. He opened the door, helped her inside, and lit a lantern. The soft glow filled the room. Pushing back the shadows, the mother sank onto the floor. Clutching her child tightly, her silver skin caught the light, and Daniel could see the exhaustion in her face. He set down his pack and pulled out a blanket. Offering it carefully, she hesitated, then nodded, wrapping the child in it. The baby's breathing slowed, calm returning. Daniel watched her, still unsure. She was not like anything he had seen, yet in that moment, she was no different from a mother anywhere in the universe. Hours passed, and the fire Daniel built began to warm the room. The alien mother looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting the flames. She spoke, her words soft and strange. Daniel could not understand, but then she touched her forehead. As if searching his mind, he felt a sharp wave of pressure, a strange light flashing behind his eyes. He gasped, clutching his head. Then suddenly, he heard her voice inside his mind, not in her language but in his own, clear and heavy with sorrow. "My name is Solara," she said. Her voice trembling but strong. Daniel stared, stunned. Unable to speak at first, the mother continued, her thoughts flowing into his mind like a broken river. "My people are called Vayari. We are warriors, strong, ruthless. We survive through battle, not through love." Her eyes lowered to the child in her arms. "But I broke their law. I gave life, I gave love, and for that they cast me out." Daniel leaned closer. Listening, her story unfolded in painful detail. The Vayari lived by a code that rejected weakness. Children were seen as chains, slowing warriors, making them vulnerable. Mothers were seen as traitors, for they placed care above conquest. Solara's voice shook with anger and grief. "I once fought for them. I once carried their banner in war. I won battles, I spilled blood, I was honored. But all of it meant nothing the moment I chose to give birth." Daniel's chest tightened as he watched her. It was hard to believe such cruelty, but her pain was real. He could see the scars on her arms, not only from battles but from exile. She whispered, "They feared more than my choice. They feared my child." Her eyes met Daniel's, deep and haunted. "This child is not ordinary. His blood carries something they cannot control. A gift or a curse, I do not know which, but they saw it as danger." The baby stirred. Tiny fingers clutching her robe, Solara smiled weakly, a rare softness breaking through the sorrow. "I will not let them take him. I will not let them turn him into a weapon," she said. Her voice filled the cabin, steady with promise. Daniel felt the weight of her words. This was not only about survival. It was about destiny if what she said was true. The child might hold power greater than any human or alien could imagine. Daniel asked quietly, "Why come here? Why Earth?" Solara looked at him, her eyes reflecting both fear and hope. "My ship was failing. I did not choose this place. But now that I am here, I wonder if it was fate. Your world is young compared to mine, but it still carries what my people lost. Compassion, kindness, family." Her voice cracked. "I was rejected for love, but perhaps here love still has meaning." Daniel leaned back, his mind racing. If others found out about Solara and her child, governments would fight to control them. If the Vayari tracked her to Earth, they would destroy anyone who stood in their way. He looked at the child again, so small, so helpless, yet carrying something mysterious. He felt a sudden pull inside his chest. Not fear, but a strange duty. He did not know why, but he knew he could not walk away. Solara's eyes softened as she watched him. "You risk much by helping me," she said gently. Daniel gave a small smile, though his heart was heavy. "I've risked worse for less," he answered. But inside he wondered what this choice would cost him. The fire crackled, the cabin filled with warmth, but outside the forest was alive with whispers far above in the night sky. Shadows moved, ships searching, signals sent across the stars. Solara shivered, pulling the child close. "They will come," she whispered, her voice low and full of dread. "They will not stop until they find us." Daniel tightened his grip on the rifle resting by his side. He looked into the flames, his face hardening. "Then let them come," he said quietly. But in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning. The hidden past was no longer hidden, and now, the future of both human and alien rested on a fragile bond. A mother, a child, and a man who had chosen to stand with them. The night passed slowly in the old cabin. Solara did not sleep, her eyes fixed on the small window. She held her child close, listening to the crackle of the fire. Every sound outside made her tense. Every rustle of leaves made her heart race. Daniel sat near the door with his rifle across his knees. He did not speak much, but his presence gave her strength. At dawn, the forest grew quiet, too quiet. Birds should have been singing. But the air was heavy and strange. Daniel stepped outside. Scanning the sky, the clouds were thick. But behind them he saw flashes of light. Not lightning, but something colder. He knew storms. And this was no storm. A faint humming sound drifted from above. Steady, unnatural, Solara felt it too. Her body stiffened. Her dark eyes filled with fear. "They are here," she whispered. Her voice trembling, Daniel frowned. "Who?" Though deep inside he already knew, Solara hugged her child tighter. Her voice sharp. "My people, the hunters. They have come for us." Daniel clenched his jaw, his grip tightening on the rifle. His cabin, his woods, his world. None of it was ready for this. But running was the only choice. Together they left the cabin. Moving quickly through the trees, the forest floor was damp with morning dew. Their footsteps muffled. Daniel led the way, guiding them through hidden paths only he knew. Solara followed, her child pressed against her chest. Every branch that cracked underfoot made her flinch. Every shadow made her heart pound. Above them, dark shapes crossed the sky. Sleek ships with glowing edges moved silently, scanning, searching. They were not large fleets. Only scouts, but deadly enough. Daniel had seen fighter planes before, but these were different. They moved like predators, patient and precise. He whispered, "Stay low, stay quiet." They reached a rocky ridge overlooking the valley. Daniel crouched and lifted his binoculars. His blood ran cold at the edge of the forest. Men in black vehicles were arriving. Government trucks, soldiers stepping out with strange equipment. It was worse than he feared. Not only aliens, but humans too. The crash had been seen. And now both worlds wanted the same thing. Solara's breathing grew quick. She could see the soldiers setting up machines. Antennas rising, lights flashing, signals reaching into the sky. "They are calling to them," she whispered, her voice sharp with dread. "They are helping them find us," Daniel cursed under his breath. If the soldiers and the hunters worked together, there would be no escape. The child stirred, a soft sound escaping its lips. Solara gently hushed it, rocking back and forth. But the child's small hands glowed faintly. Light pulsing like a heartbeat, Daniel's eyes widened. "What is that?" he asked. Solara's face turned pale. "The gift," she whispered. "It cannot be hidden for long." The glow faded. But the danger remained. Daniel stood, his mind racing. "We can't stay here," he said firmly. "There's a cave system to the north. We can hide there until nightfall." Solara nodded. Though her fear grew heavier, she had been hunted before, but never on a world this small, this fragile. Her people would burn the forest to ash if it meant finding her child. They moved quickly, slipping deeper into the woods. The humming in the sky grew louder. The ships circling closer, Daniel kept glancing upward. He had hunted deer in these forests, tracked wolves in the snow. But this was different. Now he was the prey. By midday, smoke rose in the distance. The soldiers had begun burning sections of the forest. The heat carried through the wind. Solara stumbled, coughing. Daniel caught her arm, steadying her. "You can't stop," he said firmly. "We're almost there." At last they reached the mouth of the caves, dark stone rising like jagged teeth. Daniel led them inside, lighting a small torch. The air was damp and cool, the ground uneven. They followed the twisting paths until the light of day was gone. Only the torch guided them now. Solara sat against the stone wall, cradling her child. Her hands trembled. Though she tried to hide it, Daniel knelt beside her. "They won't stop," he said quietly. "They'll search every corner of this land until they find you." Solara nodded slowly. Her voice was faint but filled with iron. "Then I must be ready to fight." Daniel studied her. She looked fragile, wounded, but there was steel in her gaze. He realized she was more than just a mother. She was a warrior cast aside, but still a warrior, he said softly. "You won't fight alone." Above them, the sky darkened. The alien ships hovered like vultures, waiting. The soldiers tightened their search, spreading through the woods with scanners and drones. Every moment brought the hunters closer. Every second carried the weight of discovery. In the cave, Solara whispered to her child, "You are the reason I was rejected, but you are also the reason I still live." Her eyes burned with tears. "If they come, I will give my life before I give you to them." Daniel heard her words, and his hand tightened on the rifle. Danger had arrived, but so had resolve. The fight for survival had only just begun. The caves gave them shelter, but not safety. The humming of the ships grew louder, echoing even through the stone. Solara could feel the vibration in her bones. Her people were close, too close. Daniel tightened the strap of his pack, his rifle in hand, his jaw set. "We can't stay here," he said quietly. "If they trap us inside, we're finished." Solara nodded, holding her child against her chest. Her body ached from exhaustion, but her will was unbroken. She followed Daniel as he led them deeper into the cave. Searching for another exit, the ground was wet. Water dripping from above, their steps echoed. A soft sound that carried through the tunnels. Every noise made Solara's heart pound. Behind them, voices grew faint but clear. Not human voices, not earthly. The hunters had entered the cave. The alien language was harsh. Sharp like blades, Solara froze, her blood running cold. "They are here," she whispered, clutching her child tighter. Daniel raised a hand, urging her forward. "There's another way out," he murmured. We moved fast and quiet, but the child stirred. Glowing faintly once again, Solara gasped, trying to cover the light. It pulsed through the cloth like a heartbeat. Daniel's eyes widened. "They'll see that." A roar of alien energy blasted through the cave. The wall shook, dust falling from above. The hunters were not searching quietly now. They were tearing the caves apart. Solara grabbed Daniel's arm, fear in her eyes. "They will kill you if they find you with me," she warned. But Daniel only shook his head. "Then they'll have to try," he said firmly. They ran, their footsteps splashing through shallow streams. The cave narrowed, forcing them to squeeze between sharp stone. Solara's shoulder brushed the wall, pain shooting through her wounds, but she pushed on, her child's cry echoing through the tunnel. The hunters were close, their footsteps like thunder. Strange beams of light cut through the darkness, scanning, searching. At last, they found a narrow opening. Daniel pushed through first, pulling Solara after him. They stumbled out into the forest once more. The air was fresh but heavy with smoke. The soldiers were near, their trucks rumbling, their radios crackling. Solara's head spun. "Danger in every direction. Where now?" she whispered urgently. Daniel scanned the land quickly. "There's a river to the east. We follow it. It will cover our trail." They ran through the trees, branches snapping, leaves flying. The forest seemed endless, but the sound of engines followed close behind. Above, alien ships moved like shadows, beams of light cutting across the ground. One beam struck near them, blasting dirt into the air. Solara shielded the child, her body trembling from the force. Daniel pulled her forward, shouting, "Keep moving." The river appeared. Wide and fast, Daniel didn't hesitate. He splashed into the cold water. Solara followed, holding the child high above the current. The water bit into her skin, but it washed away their tracks. They waded downstream, the forest closing around them, the roar of the river masking the sound of their breath. But the hunters were relentless. A ship hovered above, scanning the water. Solara's eyes widened in terror. "They see us," she cried. Daniel raised his rifle and fired, the bullet useless against the alien hull but enough to draw its attention. The ship roared, beams tearing into the trees, fire spreading quickly. The forest became a storm of smoke and flame. Solara stumbled, nearly falling. The child slipped from her arms for a heartbeat. A scream tore from her throat, but before she could reach, the child floated gently above the water, glowing brighter than ever. Daniel froze, his mouth open in shock. The glow spread, forming a shield of light that bent the water and fire away. Solara's heart pounded, tears in her eyes. The child's gift was no longer hidden. It was real, powerful, undeniable. The ship above hesitated, its scanners flickering. For a moment, even the hunters seemed uncertain. Then, with a furious roar, it opened fire again. Daniel grabbed Solara's arm, pulling her through the trees. "We can't stay, move," he shouted. They broke from the river, running into thicker woods, the glow from the child slowly fading as exhaustion set in. Solara kissed his forehead, whispering, "Rest, my little star." Rest. By nightfall, they reached another ridge. Smoke filled the sky behind them. The forest burned where they had been. Daniel dropped to one knee. Breathing hard, Solara sat beside him, her arms trembling. "They will never stop," she whispered, her voice broken. Daniel looked at her, his face pale but his eyes steady. "Then neither will we," he said quietly. In the distance, the hum of ships faded. But only for now. The hunters regrouped. The soldiers tightened their net. The chase was far from over, but in the darkness of the ridge, with fire glowing far away, Daniel, Solara, and the child shared a fragile victory. They had survived another day, and with every chase, the bond between them grew stronger. Hope was not gone, not yet. The night was heavy with smoke and silence. Daniel and Solara crouched in the shadows of the ridge, the child asleep in her arms. The forest below glowed faintly with fires left behind by the hunters. The air carried the smell of burning wood, ash drifting like snow. Daniel's face was streaked with dirt, his hands shaking from exhaustion. but his eyes never left the horizon. He knew the quiet would not last. Solara brushed a strand of silver hair from her face, her gaze fixed on the child, the small chest rising and falling with each breath. For that moment, the world could have ended and she would still hold on. But deep inside she knew the end might come sooner than she wanted. Her people did not forgive. Her people did not stop. At dawn, the silence broke. Engines roared in the distance. Trucks grinding through the forest above. The low hum of alien ships returned. Circling like vultures, Daniel's heart sank. "They've closed the net," he muttered. Solara looked at him sharply. "What does that mean?" "It means they know where we are," he answered grimly. "They'll push us into the open.
Force us to choose." Her grip tightened around the child.
"I will never give him to them," she whispered. Daniel met her eyes, his voice low and steady. "Then we fight. No matter what it costs." They moved quickly, following narrow trails up the ridge, but every path led to the same truth. The hunters were waiting. Shadows moved through the trees. Alien soldiers with glowing weapons, and from the opposite side, human soldiers advanced, rifles ready. Daniel and Solara stopped at the peak, surrounded, nowhere left to run. The child stirred, sensing the danger. A faint glow pulsed through his small hands. Solara hushed him, rocking him softly, but the glow only grew brighter. Daniel felt the heat on his skin. He whispered, "He knows. He feels it." A voice rang out from below, sharp and commanding. "Step forward, surrender, and the child will not be harmed." It was human, a soldier with authority, but Solara's blood turned cold. She had heard those promises before. They were lies behind the soldier. Alien hunters waited, their dark eyes locked on her. For once, her people and the humans wanted the same thing. The child, Daniel raised his rifle, but he knew it was hopeless. One man against two armies, still he stood tall, his finger resting near the trigger. Solara looked at him, her eyes burning with sorrow. "You should go," she whispered. "They want me, they want him, not you." Daniel shook his head. "I made my choice the night I found you." His voice was firm, unshaken. "I don't walk away." The child's glow spread wider, wrapping them in a faint light. The soldiers hesitated, the hunters stepped back. Fear flickered across their faces. Solara looked down at her child, awe mixing with dread. "He is stronger than I knew," she whispered. "But if he uses this power now, it will consume him." The circle of enemies tightened. Daniel lifted his rifle, ready for the final stand. Solara held her child close, torn between fear and love. She knew she could give him up and live, or fight and die with him. There was no easy choice. Only the truth in her heart. Her voice broke the silence. "You will not take him," she cried. Her words echoed across the ridge. The soldiers raised their weapons. The hunters readied their beams. Daniel fired the first shot, the sound cracking like thunder. The battle began. Blinding lights filled the air, beams tearing through trees, bullets flying across the ridge. Daniel moved with skill, firing, ducking, reloading. Solara unleashed the strength of a warrior she once was. She struck with speed, her body moving like a storm. But there were too many. For every soldier that fell, two more came. For every hunter she pushed back, another advanced. At the center of the chaos, the child's glow flared. A sphere of light expanded. Pushing enemies away, the ground shook. The air cracked with energy. Soldiers stumbled. Hunters shielded their faces. For a moment, the ridge became silent. All eyes fixed on the child, Solara cried out, "No, my star! You cannot!" She tried to shield him, but the light grew brighter. Daniel's eyes filled with fear and wonder. "This is his choice," he whispered. The energy pulsed once, twice, each wave stronger than the last. The enemies fell back, some fleeing, others frozen in terror. Solara's heart shattered. She knew the child was burning his life to protect them. Tears streamed down her face. She held him close, begging, "Please stop. Don't leave me." The glow dimmed, flickered, and finally softened. The child lay in her arms, weak but breathing. Alive but drained. The ridge was silent again. The hunters had retreated. The soldiers pulled back in confusion. For now the fight was over, but Solara knew this was only a pause. They would return, stronger, hungrier, and next time, the choice would be harder. Daniel lowered his rifle, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He looked at Solara, his voice rough. "You still have him. You still have a chance." Solara kissed the child's forehead, her tears falling. "I will give everything," she whispered, "everything, to keep him safe." The sun broke through the clouds. Light spilling over the ridge, it did not feel like victory. It felt like a warning. The choice had been made. But the war was far from over. The ridge was quiet after the storm of battle. Smoke drifted through the air, carrying the scent of fire and blood. Daniel stood with his rifle hanging at his side, his hands shaking, his chest heavy with exhaustion. Solara sat on the ground, cradling her child, her silver hair falling across her face. The glow around the boy had faded, leaving him weak but alive. She whispered soft words in her language, rocking him gently. Every breath he took felt like a gift. The hunters had fled into the sky, their ships vanishing into the clouds. The human soldiers had withdrawn, their commanders unsure. For now there was silence, but it was the silence of a storm that waits to return. Daniel knew it, Solara knew it, even the child seemed to know it. This was not the end, only a pause. Solara lifted her gaze to Daniel, her dark eyes filled with tears. "You should leave me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You have risked your life too many times for us." Daniel shook his head, his jaw tight. "I told you, I don't walk away." His words were simple, but his tone carried weight. He meant them, every one. The child stirred, tiny hands reaching toward the sunlight breaking through the clouds. For a moment the world felt calm. Solara touched his hand and smiled weakly. He should not have to fight. He should not carry this burden, she said. Daniel crouched beside her, his eyes steady. "Then we'll make sure he has more than that. We'll give him a chance." They left the ridge, moving carefully through the forest. Every step was slow, heavy with weariness. But each step was also forward. The fires behind them faded into the distance. Birds began to return, their calls filling the air once more. It was as if the forest itself was trying to heal by nightfall. They found shelter in the ruins of an old barn. Its roof half collapsed, its walls broken, but it was enough. Daniel built a fire, the flames flickering softly. Solara laid the child on a blanket, her hand resting on his chest. His breathing was steady, his eyes closed in peaceful sleep. She looked at Daniel across the fire, her voice quiet. "My people rejected me because of him. They said love was weakness, but tonight he saved us. He saved even you." Daniel nodded slowly, his face serious. "Maybe they don't understand what real strength is," he said. "Maybe strength isn't just fighting, maybe it's protecting. Maybe it's choosing love even when the world calls it weakness." Solara's eyes softened, her lips trembling. "No one among my people ever said that," she whispered. "Perhaps that is why I was meant to come here." The firelight danced across their faces. For the first time since her exile, Solara felt something warm in her chest. It was not only survival, it was something deeper. Hope not for her, but for the child. If humans like Daniel could exist, perhaps this world could give her son what her own people never could. Far above, stars filled the sky. Ships might return one day, soldiers might come again, but in that moment, the universe seemed vast and quiet. Solara lifted her child gently, pressing her forehead to his. "You are not weakness," she whispered, her voice strong and steady. "You are my strength. You are my future." Daniel watched her, his heart heavy yet filled with respect. He had seen many hard things in his life, but nothing as powerful as the bond between mother and child. He swore silently to himself. He would protect them no matter the cost. Even if the world turned against him, even if the stars themselves brought war, he would not let them face it alone. The child stirred again, his small eyes opening. For a brief moment the glow returned, soft and gentle, not burning. It wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Solara gasped softly, her tears falling. Daniel smiled faintly. "That's not just power," he said. "That's life. That's hope." Morning came slowly, the first light spilling across the land. The forest was scarred, the ridge broken, but the world kept turning. Solara held her child close as the sun rose, her face lit with quiet determination. "They will come again," she said softly. Daniel nodded, his grip tightening on his rifle. "Then we'll be ready." They stood together at the edge of the barn, looking out at the horizon. The sky was wide, endless, full of danger, but also full of promise. Solara took a deep breath, the child resting against her heart. Her rejection had brought her pain, but it had also brought her here, to this world, to this man, to a future she had never imagined. The boy's small hand reached toward the sun, and in that moment it was not only Solara's hope, not only Daniel's hope, it was something greater. A promise that even in the darkest of times, light could still rise. A promise that love, once seen as weakness, could become the greatest strength of all, and so the alien mother, her child, and the human who chose to stand with them walked forward, not knowing what tomorrow would bring, but carrying with them something stronger than fear, hope,